Hey everyone, welcome back. Before we dive in, I just want to say, if you're new here, please subscribe. It really means the world to us. My wife, my two kids, and I, we actually sit down together and celebrate every single new subscriber. You're not just a number, you're family. Now, let me ask you something. When you lock your door tonight, what are you locking out? What if I told you sometimes the danger isn't outside trying to get in? Sometimes it's already inside, waiting, watching, breathing. These three people learned that lesson the hardest way possible. They thought they were home alone. They checked the locks, they closed the windows, but someone was already there. Three true stories, three houses that were never empty. Three people who discovered the worst truth of all. They were never alone. I was 14 the summer I stopped sleeping with my feet hanging off the bed. Most people outgrow the fear of monsters underneath them. I never got that luxury, because for me, the monster was real, and he was patient. My name is Stephanie, and in the summer of 2007, my family lived in a quiet neighborhood on the east side of Detroit, the kind of street where everyone waved but nobody really talked, where lawns were trimmed on Saturdays and porch lights stayed on until 10. It felt safe. My parents believed it was safe, and I was 14, desperate to prove I wasn't a little girl anymore. That July, my parents planned a weekend trip to visit my grandmother in Ohio. Just 2 nights, 48 hours. I begged them to let me stay home alone. I was responsible, I argued, mature. I had homework to finish and a friend's birthday party on Saturday. Driving 4 hours to sit in Grandma's stuffy living room felt like punishment. My mother hesitated. I could see the worry pulling at her eyes. But my father, ever practical, reminded her that I was old enough, that the neighbors were a phone call away, that I had proven myself trustworthy. So they agreed. 2 nights, Friday and Saturday. They'd be back Sunday afternoon. I remember watching their car pull out of the driveway, taillights glowing red in the evening haze. I remember the thrill that rushed through me as I closed the front door and locked it behind me. The house was mine. No curfew, no parents hovering, just me, the television, and the freedom I'd been craving. That first night was everything I'd imagined. I stayed up past midnight watching horror movies, which felt rebellious and grown up. I ate cereal for dinner and ice cream for dessert. I blasted music through the living room speakers and danced like nobody was watching, because I believed nobody was. When I finally crawled into bed around 1 in the morning, I felt invincible. The house creaked and settled the way old houses do, but I barely noticed. I pulled the covers up to my chin, plugged in my phone to charge on the nightstand, and drifted off to sleep. I didn't notice the faint smell, something musty like old clothes left in a damp basement. I didn't notice how the air felt heavier than usual, how the silence seemed to press against my ears. I was too tired, too comfortable, too convinced that I was alone. Saturday passed in a blur of laziness. I slept in, watched more TV, texted my friends about the party that night. Around noon, I noticed something odd. My bedroom door was open. I could have sworn I'd closed it before falling asleep, but I shrugged it off. Maybe I hadn't. Maybe I'd gotten up for water and forgotten. That afternoon, getting ready for the party, I felt it for the first time. That prickle at the back of your neck, the sensation of eyes on you when you're supposed to be alone. I spun around in my bathroom, heart hammering, but nothing was there, just the shower curtain slightly swaying. Probably from the vent, I told myself. Probably nothing. The party was fine, normal. I came home around 11, checked the locks twice, and went to bed. But sleep didn't come easy that night. I lay in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house breathe around me. Every creak felt louder. Every shadow seemed to stretch a little too far. At some point, I heard it, a soft sound, almost like breathing, slow, rhythmic, coming from somewhere close. I held my breath, straining to listen. The sound stopped. I exhaled, convinced I'd imagined it, and eventually sleep pulled me under. Sunday morning arrived gray and heavy. My parents would be home in a few hours. The weekend was almost over, and I'd survived. I felt proud of myself as I lounged in bed, scrolling through my phone. That's when it happened. My phone slipped from my mattress and bouncing off the edge, disappearing over the side. I heard it thud softly on the carpet beneath my bed. I groaned, annoyed, and leaned over the side, reaching blindly into the darkness below. My fingers brushed the phone case, but then they touched something else, something soft, fabric, like a shirt. I froze. My brain tried to rationalize, a forgotten sweater, a stuffed animal from years ago, but the fabric was warm, body warm. I yanked my hand back so fast I nearly fell off the bed. My heart slammed against my ribs. For a long moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The silence in the room had changed. It was no longer empty. It was waiting. With trembling hands, I grabbed my phone from where it had landed near the edge. I turned on the flashlight, and slowly, so slowly, I leaned over the side of my bed and pointed the light into the darkness below. 2 eyes stared back at me. A man, lying flat on his stomach, inches beneath my mattress. His face was pale, stubbled, expressionless. He didn't blink, didn't move, just watched me with eyes that held nothing, no fear, no surprise, no humanity. I screamed. The sound tore from my throat before I could think. I scrambled backwards, tangling in my sheets, crashing against the headboard. And then he moved. A hand shot out from under the bed and grabbed my ankle. His grip was iron, cold. I kicked wildly, screaming until my voice cracked, and somehow, I tore free. I hit the floor hard, pain exploding through my hip, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. I ran.
Down the hallway, past the bathroom, my feet barely touching the stairs as I flew toward the front door. Behind me, I heard him, the groan of the bed frame. Heavy footsteps, slow at first, then faster. I reached the bathroom at the end of the hall, the only door with a lock, and threw myself inside. The lock clicked into place just as something slammed against the other side. The wood shuddered. I pressed my back against it, sobbing, fumbling with my phone. 911, 3 numbers that had never felt so far away. The operator's voice was calm, too calm. "What's your emergency?" "There's a man in my house," I gasped. "He was under my bed. He's trying to get in. Please, please help me." The pounding stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. I strained to hear through the door. Footsteps, moving away, then the creak of the back door opening. By the time the police arrived, he was gone. But here's the part that still wakes me up at night, the part that makes me check under every bed I've ever slept in since that summer. The officers searched the house. They found evidence. Food wrappers stuffed behind the furnace, a sleeping bag rolled up in the corner of the basement, a journal filled with notes. He'd been in my house for 3 days, not 1 night, 3. He'd been under my bed while I slept, while I talked on the phone, while I got dressed for the party. He'd been there the whole time my parents were home before they left. He listened to us eat dinner, heard my father kiss my mother goodnight, watched through the gap between the mattress and the floor as I scrolled through my phone inches above his face. And the worst part? They never caught him. He vanished like smoke. No fingerprints that led anywhere, no name, no face in any database. Just a man who decided my bedroom was his hiding place, and me, a girl who learned that the monster under the bed isn't a childhood fantasy. Sometimes it's real, sometimes it waits, and sometimes it watches you sleep for 3 nights before you ever know it's there. To this day, I cannot sleep without checking every hotel room, every new apartment, every single bed I've ever climbed into since that summer. I drop to my knees and I look, because I know what's possible now. I know what can fit in that darkness beneath you, and I know that the only thing separating you from a nightmare is the few inches between your mattress and the floor. Story 2. The man in my attic knew my name. He'd been listening through the vents long enough to learn it. Every time I thought I was home alone, he was right above me, breathing, waiting, watching through the slats. My name is Nelson, and in the fall of 2011, I was 12 years old living in a 2-story colonial in Milwaukee. The kind of house with creaky stairs, a basement that smelled like damp concrete, and an attic nobody ever went into. My parents used it for storage, Christmas decorations, old photo albums, boxes of things they couldn't throw away but never looked at. That October, I caught the flu. Nothing serious, just enough fever and coughing to keep me home from school for a week. My mom worked as a receptionist at a dental office. My dad managed a warehouse across town. Neither could afford to stay home with me, so they did what parents do. They trusted me to rest, drink fluids, and call if anything went wrong. For the first few days, I loved being home alone. No teachers, no homework, just me, the couch, and unlimited video games. The house felt peaceful during those quiet morning hours when sunlight streamed through the windows and the neighborhood sat empty. But peace doesn't last, not in that house, not with what was living above me. It started small, so small I almost didn't notice. The cereal box felt lighter. I'd pour myself a bowl in the morning, seal it up, put it back in the pantry. By afternoon, when I'd reach for a snack, the box felt emptier than it should. I told myself I was imagining things. Maybe I'd eaten more than I remembered. Maybe Mom had grabbed some before work. Then the milk started disappearing faster, and the bread, and the leftover pizza I'd been saving in the fridge. I mentioned it to my mom one evening. She laughed and said I must be growing. Boys your age eat everything in sight. I wanted to believe her, I really did. But then came the footsteps. The first time I heard them, I was lying on the couch watching cartoons. A soft creak above me, then another, then silence. I muted the TV and listened, heart beating just a little faster. Nothing, just the house settling, I told myself. Old houses make noise, everyone knows that. But old houses don't make noise in patterns. They don't walk from one end of the ceiling to the other and stop directly above where you're sitting. I tried to ignore it. I cranked up the TV volume. I told myself it was squirrels, raccoons, anything that made sense. But the footsteps kept coming, always when I was alone, always stopping when I stopped moving. Like whatever was up there was listening to me just as hard as I was listening to it. Day 4 of being homesick, I noticed the attic hatch. It sat in the ceiling at the end of the upstairs hallway, a simple wooden panel with a pull-down ladder behind it. I'd walked past it 1,000 times without thinking, but that afternoon, something made me stop. Something made me look up. The hatch was crooked, just slightly, like someone had pushed it closed but hadn't lined it up right. My stomach dropped. I stood there staring at it, telling myself it had always been like that I was being paranoid, that the flu was making me see things that weren't there. But I couldn't shake the feeling, the wrongness of it. That night, I barely slept. Every creak made me flinch. Every shadow on my ceiling seemed to move. I kept my bedroom door locked, something I'd never done before, and lay awake until exhaustion finally dragged me under.
Day 5. The smell. I noticed it first in the hallway near the attic hatch. Faint, musty, like unwashed clothes and something sour underneath. Body odor, I realized, with a sickening twist in my gut. Someone's body odor seeping down from above. I called my mom at work, told her something smelled weird upstairs. She said it was probably a dead mouse in the walls, that Dad would check it out over the weekend. I wanted to scream. The weekend was 2 days away, 2 more days alone in a house that didn't feel empty anymore. That afternoon, I heard the cough. Not from outside, not from the TV, from directly above my bedroom. A single, muffled cough, followed by the creak of weight shifting on old beams. I stopped breathing. My whole body went rigid. For a long moment, I sat perfectly still, controller frozen in my hands, eyes locked on the ceiling. Then I heard a voice, soft, almost a whisper, coming through the vent. Shh. I ran. I didn't think. I didn't grab my phone. I just bolted down the stairs, out the front door, across the lawn to Mrs. Patterson's house next door. I pounded on her door until she answered, confused and concerned, and I told her everything. The footsteps, the food, the smell, the cough, the voice. She called my parents. They called the police. When the officers arrived, they made me wait outside. I sat on Mrs. Patterson's porch wrapped in a blanket, shaking despite the afternoon sun. My mom held me tight, asking over and over if I was okay. My dad paced the sidewalk, jaw clenched, fists balled at his sides. 20 minutes later, an officer emerged from our front door. His face was pale. "We found someone," he said, "in the attic." They brought him out in handcuffs, a man in his 40s, thin and filthy, with matted hair and hollow eyes. He didn't struggle, didn't speak, just walked calmly between the officers, like this was all perfectly normal. But as they led him past me, he turned his head, looked directly at me, and smiled. "Goodbye, Nelson," he said, soft, familiar, like we were old friends. My blood turned to ice. He knew my name. He'd heard it through the vents, heard my parents say it at dinner, heard my mom call it up the stairs, heard me answer the phone and introduce myself to friends. He knew my name because he'd been listening for 3 weeks. The police searched our attic and found everything. A sleeping bag tucked between boxes, empty food containers, our food, water bottles filled from our bathroom sink, and photographs. Polaroids, dozens of them, taken through the vents. Me sleeping, me eating breakfast, me playing video games, me walking to the bathroom in the middle of the night. 3 weeks. He'd been watching me for 3 weeks. Every time I thought I was alone, he was there. Every time I walked beneath that attic hatch, he was inches above me, holding his breath, waiting for me to pass. The police never figured out how he got in. A window left unlocked, a door not properly latched. It didn't matter. What mattered was that our home, the place that was supposed to be safe, had been invaded, violated, and I'd never feel the same way inside it again. We moved 6 months later. My parents said it was for a better school district, but I knew the truth. None of us could sleep in that house anymore. Every creak was a footstep. Every shadow was a shape watching from above. Every vent was an eye that never closed. I'm 24 now. I've lived in apartments, dorms, houses with roommates, and every single time I move somewhere new, the first thing I do is check the attic, check the crawl spaces, check every corner where a person could hide. Because I know what's possible now. I know that safety is an illusion, and I know that the person watching you doesn't need to break down your door. Sometimes they're already inside.
Sometimes they've been there for weeks, and sometimes they know your name before you ever know they exist.
Story 3. For weeks, I told my parents something was in my closet. They said it was mice. Then I found the drawings, sketches of me sleeping in handwriting I didn't recognize, and behind my closet wall, a door. My name's Deirdre, and in 2008, I was 10 years old, living in an old Victorian house in Savannah, Georgia. The kind of house with high ceilings, wraparound porches, and closets deep enough to get lost in. My bedroom was on the second floor, tucked into a corner where the walls met at odd angles. My closet stretched back farther than it should have. I always hated that closet. It started with scratching, soft at first, like fingernails dragging across wood somewhere deep in the walls. I'd wake in the middle of the night, heart pounding, staring into the darkness of that open closet door. I begged my parents to believe me. Something was in there, something alive. They checked, found nothing, said it was mice in the walls. Old houses have them, they said. Go back to sleep. But mice don't leave candy wrappers on your floor. Mice don't move your stuffed animals to different spots while you're at school. And mice definitely don't write in your diary. I found the entry on a Thursday afternoon, a page I hadn't written. The handwriting was shaky, childlike almost, but not mine. It said, "You look so peaceful when you sleep." My hands trembled so hard I dropped the diary. I wanted to scream, to run, to show my parents proof that I wasn't crazy. But there was more. Tucked between the pages were drawings, sketches of a girl in bed, eyes closed, blanket pulled to her chin. Sketches of me. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my bed with every light on, watching that closet door. And when the scratching started again around 2 a.m., I didn't hide under my covers. I grabbed my flashlight and walked toward the sound. The back wall of my closet felt different, hollow. I pressed against it, and it moved. Not much, just enough to reveal a seam, a crack, a door I never knew existed. I pushed harder. The wall swung inward. Behind it was a room, small, dark, a mattress on the floor, food wrappers everywhere, and on the wall, dozens of photographs, Polaroids, all of me, sleeping, eating, playing in the backyard, and in the corner, a door leading outside. Someone had been coming into my room every night, watching me sleep, then leaving before dawn, for weeks, maybe months, and my parents never believed me. They caught him 3 days later, the previous owner's adult son, mentally ill, convinced I was his little sister who died years before. He'd never stopped visiting her room, even after we moved in. So if you're listening tonight, remember this. Locks don't matter if the entrance is already inside your walls. And if a child tells you something's in their closet, believe them. Thank you all for listening. If these stories kept you up tonight, you're not alone. My wife, my 2 kids, and I, we're grateful for every single one of you. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this with someone who needs a sleepless night. And before you turn off the lights, maybe check your closet one more time. You never know what's behind the wall.